Welcome to Hope a Thing, a Native American podcast. I am Melissa Atkins, the Training and Development Coordinator for the Native Learning Center. And with me is my co-host, Brooke Warrington, the Training and Development Specialist, also for the Native Learning Center. Today on the show, we are excited to have Rolando Jaimes, Deputy Director of the Housing Division for Pascua Yaqui Tribe.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us today. Can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Rolando Jaimes. I'm the Deputy Director here for the Housing Division at the Pascua Yaqui Tribe. I'm also a member of the Pascua Yaqui Tribe, and I've been working in housing for a very, very long time, like about 18 years so far.
So 18 years, that's an extremely long career so far, and you're doing amazing. What originally got you into that line of work?
So interestingly, I used to work for a different technology company that did procurement, and so it was similar tasks, but in a different industry for housing, for working for the tribe itself. And so because of that career change, I ended up at the tribe. They've been very helpful to me over the years, and they've helped me develop professionally. And so I'm really grateful to be a tribal member, but also that the tribe itself cares enough to take care of their community in this way. And so I was offered that opportunity with maybe not necessarily having the full experience that I needed for the position, but over time, I've developed experience and have had plenty of training. And so that's one thing that as far as the tribe goes, is something positive to say about that.
It sounds like you were very supported, and that sounds amazing. Can you go ahead and tell us about the 4 phases?
Yeah, so most recently here, over the last few years, we in housing have had a great need because just the tribal members, the membership increasing very much. And so for the housing department, one of the main goals is to provide safe and affordable housing for our tribal members. And so how do we do that? Over the past, time that I've been here, there's a government program from HUD, the NAHASDA program, that gives tribes a sum of money based on, again, a formula that's been pre-approved, for a long time. That formula gives the Pascua Yaqui tribe a certain amount of money, but that money is never enough to meet the needs that we have. It lets us operate the existing housing that we have, this existing rentals. I think we have like 430 some rentals right now, 436, I think. So that's kind of under our management, but our waiting list at the moment is over 1,000 families. And so obviously, if we only have 400 and some houses and we have 1,000 people waiting, there's obviously a need. And so then these 4 phases came about a few years back, where our tribal council gave us a plot of land, which is 40 acres. They said, housing, go and develop that for future housing. And so we went about hiring an architect, or not an architect, an engineer, so that they can help us subdivide that 40 acres. That process took a while because there was a lot of back and forth of what do we want it to look like? How many lots can we get in there? Is there usability of that land? Because we're in a floodplain zone. And so all these factors had to come about. So then once we had an idea of what we could lay out, we went back to council, back to the community, and got their input. We had 3 options to pick from. We ended up picking, one of the 3, and then we proceeded to move forward. And then, so the next part of the planning was, well, how do we find money to build on this plat of land that we've designed? And so that's where the low-income housing tax credit comes in. We had applied previously for other projects. So we've had, up to that point, we had 6 projects already that were low-income housing tax credit projects. So again, we focused on using that avenue to build. And so initially, again, we thought, let's build as many houses as we can get in there. So we decided on phase one to go for 50 houses. So that's probably one of the largest projects on tribal land, to do 50 houses using this program of low-income housing tax credits. So we're very proud of that because, again, it was a big chunk to take, a big bite to take out of this adventure for us. And so that's how phase one started. Phase one started right before we got into the pandemic. And so initially, we got good bids to build the units from contractors. But then once the pandemic hit, all things turned, right? So now we had a plan for COVID, for the separation of workers so that people could be kept safe. We also had materials issues, where the materials were hard to get, they cost more to get. And so all those challenges, but that was phase one. While we were doing that, we said, well, how can we maximize the space that we have for more houses? And so then with the help of the director we had at that time, we decided to do like a townhome option where it's building 27 more units in 9 lots, basically. So we were able to put more houses in less lots. And then in that process, we said, well, how can we still maximize our space? So phase 3 was to apply for another tax credit project, but this time it would be a multi-story, five-story, 50-unit apartment building. And so now we're able to put 50 families in a space of maybe 4 or 5 lots that we merged into one. And so that's kind of the evolution. And then that gets us to phase 4, which again is a multi-story, four-story building this time. But again, now we're gearing it to helping elders, seniors. And so it'll be 45 units that will be able to house our seniors. And so on our waiting list, that probably will cover all our waiting list for seniors once we build that. So again, that's kind of like the 4 phases in a very short summary here.
I have an added on question real quick. Are there any qualifications that you have for any of the housing?
Qualifications like who can be in there?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, the tax credit program gives us parameters. One, obviously they have to be low income. And so normally, like for what we house, it's 80% of the of what's considered, an average. Forgot the exact terminology at the moment, but it's 80%. So what we're targeting is people that make 60 or lower. So sometimes 60, 50, 40, even 30% of the median income. And so that's one of the qualifications, that their income has to be in that parameter. And then like for that senior one, obviously they have to be seniors according to our definition here for the tribe. And so those are some of the parameters. And then the state sometimes requires, different other things, but mainly it's based on income, our waiting list, and then our demographic of who we said we were going to serve.
Wow.
Thank you.
While we're on the subject of parameters, if you will, what other types of projects could be funded through the low-income housing tax credit?
Well, mainly they're all geared towards, again, families that are low income. So they could be single family residences. There can be the townhomes that we're building. They could be apartment buildings. So those are basically the main structures. There's other programs that are also kind of a tax credit. We're not too familiar with it. We haven't used it directly in housing. And so that they can do other types of buildings. So the tribe has used those type of credits to build like health facilities or our education building. So that has more leeway on what kind of buildings we could do. And so the tribe's taking advantage of that here in Tucson and also in Guadalupe, which is by the Tempe area and Phoenix in that area. And so But as far as housing goes, it has to be obviously housing that we build. So
Can it only be new construction like this project had?
no, great question. Yeah, so the program itself is for new construction, and it also is for rehabilitation, which also we've used in the past. So our first two projects involve rehabbing existing rental units, and so those had been built like in the 80s. And so when we went about and rehabbed them, we were able to upgrade them to, to the current standards for electricity and all that. We were able to put new roofs on these. Just, I mean, everything from the ground up, basically. It was basically a brand new house, but without having torn down the walls or the foundation of the house. So yeah, so it could be rehabs and it can also be new construction.
Okay, very cool. Let me pause. To circle back to the building that you had designed specifically for elders, was there anything about that build that was unique from the other homes?
Yeah, so we're currently like planning that project. So we were awarded the credits a few months back in June of this year, 2023. And so when we initially put the application, we said, we're going to target seniors. And so we knew that we would build features there that are senior friendly and also like ADA compliant in a way. So as part of the planning, council gave us some of their suggestions on what they wanted. So obviously we're thinking like in this particular ones, when you open the door, there's going to be a little section where you can either put your groceries there or sit down, as like maybe you take off your shoes. So it's right by the door. So that kind of, again, has the elders in mind. The bathrooms obviously will be all accessible for them with grab bars and roll-in showers and those kind of things. There's going to be a built-in laundry area, and it's close to where like the bathroom area is. So it's all very like accessible to the elder without having to, be going back and forth to different spots. We're going to do things like the pull in case somebody falls and they can do a pull chain by their bedroom. So there's all these features there that are geared toward making the seniors safe within their units. And then in the building in general, we have some space that we're planning so that social workers can go there and have appointments with the elders versus the elder having to go to the social service building. Same thing with health, clinics, they could have health clinics there in the building instead of making the seniors go to an appointment outside of the building. So that's there for them. On the fourth floor, there'll be a kind of like a conference area where they can have activities, and it'll have an open terrace that leads to the outside. And so they'll be able to enjoy the good views of Tucson mountains from the building itself up on that fourth floor. So yeah, we're very excited because we're going to be able to serve as these seniors, and we feel like they'll have a community setting within this building. And so it's something that we're looking forward to.
That's so special. What thoughtful planning too.
I honestly applaud you guys and your team on considering everything that you just mentioned and really thoroughly thinking out, well, how can they enjoy their lives? What will make their lives easier? What do they need in their day-to-day? I think that's incredible that you took the time to think that, and then you made it happen.
Well, and now that you mention it, there's one other feature that we signed up for the seniors, that we're going to have a garden area for them too. So initially we thought we would put it on that fourth floor and they could have like a garden up there. But right now it looks like it'll be adjacent to the building. But again, that'll give a spot for the seniors to have activities and be there with nature and growing things. We have another section where we have seniors. It's more of a kind of like an open campus area here on the tribe, on the reservation, and they also have a garden area. So that's very popular. So we want to have that near this building so that the elders there can also do that.
That is so wonderful. And I love that idea. Just being able to grow your own food and bringing the community together. And it's just, it's beautiful. Circling back to the buildings, is there anything else that you thought of or your ideas that stand out from different housing projects?
Um, yeah, we can get into one of the dream projects that we have, but for what we're building right now for this low income housing tax credit, another thing when people hear low income, they think very basic, very like minimalist, like bottom, like what's the least we can give somebody to at least have a house. And so we wanted to go away from that thought. Like we said, why should somebody that's living in our houses be any different than anybody else just because of their income? So initially, when we hired the architect, we wanted to make sure that these houses had a modern look and had a very aesthetic that somebody can say, I live in that house and is proud of it. Because our tribe is urban, we're in the Tucson city, and we're just outside of the limits of the city, but we're very connected to Tucson, and so Tucson's a pretty good sized city. So the tribal members here are used to having those amenities that a city offers. And so again, we wanted these houses to reflect that we have nice, visually aesthetic and usable units. So we asked the architect initially, give us this vision. And then they came back and it was really toned down. We're like, no, that's not what we want. We want you to go back and like create something that's really pleasing to see and that's functional. And again, that fit all our parameters for ADOH. And so they did. They went out of their way and they impressed us. And so these homes are very very nice to be in, to see, and to live in. The space is really well used because again, we have limits of how big we can build with ADOH's requirements, but within that space, these houses feel way bigger than what they are. With that in mind, obviously for tribes, it's always managing the culture part of it too. And so how do you like not go away from the culture part, but also again make the houses something where people are proud to live in? And so, again, I feel personally like our demographics of our tribe, again, that we have a lot of younger tribal members that want to feel like they're living in a modern home. And so it was finding that balance. And again, I think we pushed to the side of modern looking a little bit more than normally we would have. But we've also gotten great feedback from the community that these houses really stand out, and that if you could put it next to some other house in another neighborhood that's affluent, like these houses would not lack anything.
Oh yeah, the homes are absolutely gorgeous, and we will be linking a presentation where all of you listeners can see pictures of the homes as well. They turned out beautiful. During the project creation, we read that you ran into a cultural site being identified. What happened with that? What changed about your construction process?
Yeah, so that was on phase one. Again, we were building 50 houses, and we had picked out the lots. And as part of the pre-work that you do before getting started, there was a cultural site that was identified, a possible cultural site, and so we went to look at it. We found out where it's at, and again, we were trying to get information from our tribal resource person that deals with that here, and then with our neighboring tribe, which is the Tohono O'odham Nation. And so we wanted to make sure we respected that, regardless if it was cultural or not, because we weren't sure. And but that changed all our plans. So we had to identify that where that site was at. It was in a particular lot that we were going to build on. So one, we had to change that lot. We said we're not going to touch that lot. We're going to go build on another one. So that meant a lot of redoing a lot of paperwork, for legal purposes and for construction purposes. And so that lot was then protected, and then we sought the advice of, again, the tribal resource people. And so at this point, it's set aside for it to be as part of the neighborhood. And so, yeah, that created some challenges for us, but again, that was part of the nice thing of seeing everybody come together and find a plan to make sure that, one, we didn't touch it, but two, that we were still able to make our project happen. And so yeah, that was a fun time way back in the beginning of this project.
Any advice to give others working on tribal housing development?
Yeah, so over the time that I've been here, there's been changes to the directors, the management, but in the end, again, we got to remember who we're serving, and we're serving tribal members and community and people that have a need. And so the advice I would give is just go for it, right? So sometimes, again, being here for so long, it could be the trap of staying in this box where, like, this is the way it's been done, and these are the four walls, and this is where we're at. But we have to break those walls. We have to, like, go out and be adventurous. And so that's not easy because, again, the system that we work in, particularly other tribes that we've talked to, like, we're all just used to that box. And so the thing I would say is to break out of the box is not easy, but it is doable. And the way I think you can be successful at doing that is by pushing on that wall a little bit at a time. And so again, we started again with this whole tax credit program. For us was scary from way back when we started it, which is almost 15 years ago with our first project. It took several attempts to get the council on board because it was very new to everybody. But we kept pushing. They accepted to do one project, and then they accepted to do a second, a third, a fourth, until we got to 6. And then we kind of got stagnated. And so then with the director we had at the time, again, he started pushing, and he really pushed because, again, this took us to the point where we have 3 active projects, and we're working on the 4th one all at the same time. Basically, they all overlap to a certain extent. But I guess then going back to the point is just start small, but start, because if you don't start, you're going to be stuck in that box. And so if you start little by little, you see that you got one, then you see you got the second one, and you just keep going until you push the envelope big. And by pushing the envelope big, I mean, for us, we got, again, from council, a plot of land in the Guadalupe area. So again, our tribe is the main part of it is in Tucson, but we have a huge amount of tribal members in Guadalupe over there in the Phoenix area. So in that area, they gave us a lot that we could develop. And because of the studies that we did in the market, we said, let's go big. And so there we've designed a building that'll house like 80 apartments, luxury apartments. And the idea is to bring money into the housing department. So that idea is under development, and that goes into, like we said, let's do big. And so we hired an architect. We told them, again, we want to have luxurious things, because in that area of Phoenix, as the market is really apt for luxury apartment rentals, which includes for us designing a pool that's on the roof, right? And it has a fire feature as well. So it's like a pool with a fire. And that was like a whole discussion of how to get fire inside of water, right? So but that's again, that was that's a huge dream for us, because it's still under development. It's still being designed, and then we need to get to the point where we can fund it and build it. But it all started again with a very small step, which is just going out and doing something that we had never done before, getting this tax credit. without tax credits, really, the tribe itself wouldn't have been able to build all these units because, again, the NAHASDA is just not enough. Yeah, it keeps us floating, but it's not enough to then build on that. And so yeah, I mean, we have 10 projects basically awarded to us at this point. 6 that are complete, 7 we're in the process of moving people in. 8 and 9 is almost under construction and almost done. And then this 10th one is the one that we have right now currently in the process. So how do we get there? Again, you got to just do one, and you just got to insist and go for it. And so that's scary. That takes pushing, that takes believing in yourself. And one of the things that I've learned over time too is like, you don't need to know everything because there's somebody else that knows it. You just got to be able to tap into it. So we've been able to successfully use a consultant for tax credits, architects, engineers, and it just has happened. And so I have the luxury of being here 18 years and seeing how this has evolved. And it's really a proud moment to say, like, man, I've been involved in every single one of these tax credit projects that we have on the reservation and off the reservation. So that's my piece of advice. Just go for it. Be willing to push the boundaries a little bit, and you'll be surprised how far you can go.
Thank you so much for your kind words and all of your advice. I hope everyone listening is able to resonate with it and dare to be different, just like you were.
Absolutely. Your projects definitely speak very, very highly to taking chances, pushing the envelope, and, allowing yourself to dream of something bigger, something more. I really love that you took this idea that, low income housing should somehow be less than, and rejected that and said, no, this is going to be beautiful housing, homes that people are going to be excited to own, proud to own, for generations to come. And, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. And I think adding to that too, because again, pushing the envelope. So on the reservation, we've never done a multi-story apartment building. Again, the stigma is like, oh, I don't want to live in an apartment because I think people have an idea that apartment looks like what they see on TV and the movies, like where everybody's crammed and it's like a boring, building that you barely can live in. So again, we were trying to break that thought by making the building itself beautiful. Again, the project number 9, which is phase 3, that one has a rooftop terrace as well. So our tenants will be able to hang out on the top there. And again, they have these great mountain views that are like very very special because Tucson is surrounded by mountains. And so when the sunset hits in that area, I mean, those tenants are going to have beautiful views. And so again, but that was the idea. Like, we don't want to just tell people, oh, you're going to live in an apartment. We want you to feel like, hey, I want to live in that place, in that building. And so again, that was the idea of the apartments.
That's incredible. And I'm sure everybody who's on the waiting list currently is going to be over the moon for once they're able to move into this.
Yeah, we have many people saying, like, where am I in that list? Because I want to make sure I get one of those units.
Right? All right, everybody. On that note, that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much to Rolando for joining us today. We hope that all of our listeners learned a lot. I know that we did. And as always, thank you for listening to the Hopathanga Native American podcast. If you enjoy our show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Also, visit our website, nativelearningcenter.com, to find information about upcoming webinar and virtual trainings. Be sure to come back for more content.
And if you want to contact Rolando, don't forget to see his email in the link box. Bye, everyone.